Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different and frankly, super exciting. We're pulling back the curtain on a private Chatham House Rule think tank salon that recently went down in Singapore. We're talking family office principals, venture operators, government policy specialists, and corporate technologists all locked in a room together. Their goal? To decode the hidden truth that are genuinely shaping the near future of the AI and tech landscape. And honestly, what they discussed fundamentally challenges the mainstream narrative on literally everything, from AI sovereignty right down to the future of the global economy.
Okay, let's quickly run through our roadmap for today. We'll be breaking down 5 critical realities. Number 1, the AI sovereignty illusion. Number 2, the quantum ticking clock. Number 3, the wildcat token economy. Number 4, the true cost of agents. And finally, number 5, the global talent race. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the AI sovereignty illusion. Right now, sovereign AI is this massive buzzword, heavily pushed by politicians and national security folks who want to localize data centers. But here's a really critical question you've got to ask about your own organization or government. If you build the AI data center in your country, is the AI actually yours? Recent geopolitical events are driving this huge push for physical localization, owning the data center, the power supply, the subsea cables, the whole shebang. But does owning the physical servers actually protect you if your developers are just quietly using a foreign model anyway? You can have total sovereignty at the rack level, but complete 100% dependency at the model level. Think back to the Cold War and the COCOM rules. Those were agreements among Western allies to restrict tech exports to the Soviet bloc. Back then, controlling hardware across borders was, relatively easy, right? A physical object had to cross a physical border. But trying to control the diffusion of liquid knowledge, like AI model weights, it's nearly impossible. Today, model weights are an exportable know-how that is infinitely more liquid than, say, a semiconductor fab. Focusing entirely on where the physical server sits is basically fighting the last war. Because out in the real world, the reality is totally different. When given a free choice, price-sensitive developers are voting with their keyboards. They're actually routing the majority of tracked global inference traffic to Chinese origin models like Qwen and DeepSeek. That's up from just a low single-digit share 18 months ago. And this happens regardless of where the local data center is built. So anyone trying to justify massive domestic infrastructure spending on the grounds of AI independence is totally missing the fact that developers are already deeply dependent on interoperable foreign models. Let's move right into Section 2, the quantum ticking clock. So if you thought physical hardware was a false sense of security, wait until we talk about cryptography. The attendees at this salon initially treated quantum decryption as this distant philosophical concern, a someday problem for a future chief information security officer. But you really have to ask yourself if you're prepared for the harvest now, decrypt later reality. Highly sensitive encrypted secrets, we're talking patents, trade secrets, biometric data, are already being downloaded by threat actors today. They're just sitting on them, waiting for a sufficiently powerful quantum computer to come online to unlock it all.
Now, this isn't like the Y2K bug. Y2K had a fixed, universally known date that absolutely forced boardrooms to spend money. Q-Day, on the other hand, doesn't have a specific date on the calendar. But a recently signed U.S. executive order has set some incredibly aggressive, legally binding federal deadlines. Check this out. By January 2027, all new U.S. national security systems must be quantum safe. That's going to trigger a massive government-wide migration to new Federal Information Processing Standards, or FIPS, by 2030. Independent research suggests enterprise migration takes anywhere from 5 to 15 years. And because there's no single crash date, this massive normalcy bias has set in. But make no mistake, with these deadlines, the ticking clock is no longer a philosophical risk. It is a massive compliance emergency right now.
Okay, shifting gears, let's jump into Section 3, the wildcat token economy.
Let's move from cryptography over to economics, because we're looking at a breakneck, completely unregulated shadow economy here. We are seeing a literal explosion in AI usage against falling prices. It's wild, a 22 times usage increase compared to a relatively minor 9% price decline. Global AI token consumption is scaling at an extraordinary speed. But the real question is, who's actually footing the bill? The salon highlighted this massive wave of invisible corporate AI spend that's actually being subsidized by employees. Everyday workers are paying $20 a month out of their own pockets for AI tools that increase their employers' productivity, entirely bypassing corporate finance and procurement. The think tank drew this brilliant historical line from today's AI token market straight back to the chaos of the 1837 free banking era in the US.
Back then, thousands of private banks were just printing their own money. You had wildly varying exchange rates, absolutely no central clearinghouse, total chaos. Today, AI tokens are essentially private money printed by tech labs at an industrial scale. There is zero shared unit of account between an OpenAI token, an Anthropic token, and a Quen token. What we have here is an unregulated value transfer mechanism operating completely under the radar of enterprise finance teams and global financial regulators.
This naturally leads us to Section 4, the true cost of agents. This shadow economy brings us face to face with a pretty harsh enterprise reality. Naive ROI math is systematically mispricing the real cost of advanced AI workflows. If your organization is planning to move from simple chatbot queries to autonomous multi-agent workflows, you really need to brace yourself for the exponential multiplier. Letting AI agents iterate through 40 to 90 simulation rounds doesn't just scale your costs linearly, it explodes them exponentially. A multi-agent workflow can easily run 100 to 1,000 times the token cost of a single chatbot call. If you're measuring agentic AI performance purely by token consumption, you are going to bankrupt your pilot projects in no time.
So how do you survive this cost explosion? Well, decision makers have to urgently stop obsessing over the underlying models themselves. The models are commoditizing. They're becoming interchangeable. Instead, you need to invest heavily in building an in-house harness. This is the orchestration, evaluation, and permissioning layer where your actual defensible value sits. Think about it. It's exactly what Kubernetes did when it standardized and orchestrated early cloud computing infrastructure. You absolutely have to build this AI harness or you'll be permanently locked into staggering, unpredictable per-call API pricing. All right, let's look at our final pillar, Section 5, the global talent race.
To build that sophisticated in-house harness we just talked about, you obviously need the right talent. And that leads to a fascinating revelation about the future of work. For centuries, we've lived in a world of knowledge scarcity, where formal certificates and degrees were everything. But today, AI has made textbook knowledge virtually free. So relying on traditional certificates, that's now a really weak signal for employers. The actual scarce resource in today's talent war isn't knowledge anymore. It is hands-on access to production infrastructure and secure sandboxes. The bottleneck has completely shifted from information to access.
And different nations are handling this access gap in vastly different ways. While some regions are cautiously restricting AI in university coursework because they're worried about academic integrity, China has executed a massive Sputnik-style educational restructuring. Get this, between 2021 and 2025, they revoked over 12,000 arts and humanities undergraduate programs. At the same time, they added over 10,000 new AI, robotics, and embodied intelligence programs. They aren't just tweaking the curriculum. They're actively manufacturing hands-on AI access for millions of students at a national scale to solve youth unemployment and completely dominate the next tech era. So what does this all mean? How do we actually navigate these massive shifts? Well, to combat these blind spots, the Mastermind Wednesday Salon proposed creating what they call a sovereignty and tokens signal board. Because right now, let's be honest, enterprises are basically navigating by anecdotes. We need to actively track actual model dependency, not just where a data center is physically located. We need to monitor blended token economics across providers so we can understand the real flow of value. We have to start measuring these variables with hard, concrete data. I'm going to leave you with this really provocative thought from the think tank to ponder. In a world where inference is effectively becoming free and unregulated AI tokens are acting as this shadow global currency, who actually wins? Will the true winners be the chipmakers building the hardware, the hyperscalers running the data centers, or will it be the visionary architects who managed to build the very first global token clearinghouse? Thank you so much for exploring these critical insights with me today. Take a good, hard look at your own organization's AI strategy, because honestly, it might be time to rethink absolutely everything you thought you knew.